Hey, welcome to episode 8 of Sitting In. I'm surprised I made it this far. I'm usually quite bad at sticking to things, but the feedback that I get is worth me continuing, and I really enjoy these conversations. So, if this is your first episode of Sitting In, then welcome. If it's not, and you've listened to the other ones, then good on you. Thanks for staying. Today I'm going to be sitting in with Kristof Neyens. Kristof is a guitar player who is well known for his Instagram videos where he plays guitar in his pajamas. But no, Kristof has a very distinct sound, and I can always hear when it's him playing. And today we get into a little bit about that, but more relevantly, we get into his new book that he's just released. So if you're into kind of guitar books, then you might get a lot out of this. Yeah, so what have you been up to in this last couple of weeks since we last caught up?
It's basically been full-on book for me, book release. So that's taken up most of my time, which is great. I mean, I'm happy it's out.
Mm-hmm.
And other than that, I'm recording some songs with my girlfriend, which I'm very excited to share whenever they're ready. So yeah.
Nice. What kind of form does well, I guess it's a duo, or are you adding more to
it? We are adding more. It's going to be like full band songs
Nice.
and production and all that. But it's very guitar driven and voice driven because it's our thing. You know, it's it's quite original. I think. I hope. So
I think it will be. I've not heard your girlfriend's music, but if you're on it, then I think it will be original because
she's incredible, man.
Oh yeah, you need to send me a link.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah. It was cool to meet you guys back in Boston when that was 2 years ago now.
It's crazy.
But yeah, I was saying that I think you have a really unique sound. So,
thank you.
Hearing that on record will be really cool. Actually, like your approach to collaboration. I think it's always interesting hearing how people collaborate.
Yeah, that's what I enjoy most, actually, playing for other people, playing on other people's songs, channeling the energy and trying to fit the song, suit the song. That's what I love. So yeah, I mean, I'm not the guy you hire for a cover gig, right? So
right. I don't know. I'd get you in a cover band gig if it was gonna mean that we could hang out for a night and like play some tunes. I think that's the funny thing about music industry. It's like, you could kind of be the guy who gets the cover gigs, but you could also just be the good guy who gets all the gigs.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I'm that. So
no,
maybe one day.
Yeah. Well, one thing I want to ask you is, you're in Belgium right now, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. Because I'm aware that you've dotted about the place between Boston, Belgium, and potentially Australia.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit about what's happening in Belgium right now. Like, I understand that you're an artist. That's your job. You do music, you teach, and all that. Like, what's the current climate for that, given the situation? This is the only podcast I'll have released that is actually proper up to date. So this is a situation we can talk about for the first time on the podcast.
It's an interesting question, because I mean, right now I'm not sure if the situation is very different all over the world. You know, I feel like everybody is a bit in the same boat, and we all have to get by in some way or another. But here in Belgium, I mean, I can only speak for myself, right? So I still teach online, and I have the books. So for me, not a lot has changed since I'm not in a band at the moment. Because, like you say, we're traveling all over the place. But all of the gigs in Belgium have stopped, so a lot of my friends are out of a job now, which is terrible. It's a tough situation for everyone. And I'm also happy to hear that you're doing well, you know.
Yeah, one thing I
Everything's
was like curious is because in Scotland, I mean, there's the start of some sort of government help if people need it. Like people who do only live off gigs, they'll need more help than someone who's still a student. Is there anything like that happening in Belgium where artists can get support?
it's there's the ideas in place, I think, and this may have changed when this comes out. And some self-employed people already qualify to get some kind of bonus, or what do you call it? And sorry, I'm getting a call. Can you hear that?
A tiny bit. You want to take it?
No. Sorry, man.
It's all right. It's all good.
But so far, artists have really been left out of that whole idea, that whole sketch that they're setting up, the whole thing, and that's really painful to see. It's like, well, you don't really have to stop working, so we're not willing to help you, and that's
Unfair.
really hard for. Yeah, it's very unfair. So,
yeah. Well,
it's pretty hard.
Everybody's having sort of same situation. It's been really cool, in a way, to see how other creatives are having to adapt. We're all in a position of having to adapt in some sort of way, whether it means working less and dealing with having less finances, or maybe having to work more with what you already have. Everybody's in a different position, and some people
being creative with what you can do, and I'm sure you've come across this by now, but this session legend Tom Bukovac has been uploading YouTube videos now, and it's been going really well for him, and it's also a great source of inspiration for any of us, any kind of guitar player, musician. So it's really great to see someone like that sharing the wisdom, sharing what he can, just because he has the time now. So it's really great to see something like that as well.
Yeah, I think the flip side of that is that I didn't personally think that online lessons was a saturated market 3 months ago. I don't think it was, but I think it is now. Everybody is trying to teach online, and I don't know if you've had this, but I've had a lot of people hit me up and ask, like, how do I teach online? Like, can we maybe do a session where you teach me how to teach online? And it's cool, but the market's going to be super saturated now.
Yeah, you're right about that. And I mean, like for you, my biggest source of income is teaching online. So it's not necessarily ideal for us if the market gets saturated or if you get undercut. Without saying that people shouldn't be doing this, because everybody needs to take care of themselves,
Of course.
So it's understandable that everybody is kind of pushed in that direction.
I think it's great. I don't think it's a negative thing. I think it's great that people are having to adapt. Like, people should have been doing this 5 years ago, having an online presence and like having maybe students if you teach in different parts of the world. Because
definitely,
I don't know about you, but I've found that to be like one of the most enjoyable parts of teaching online, is like having people all over the place like come for lessons, and it's so many different people. It's great.
Yeah, I totally agree. Plus, there's so many different kind of players teaching online now. Like, an important thing to realize when you're teaching is what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. Like, I would never take on someone who really wants to get into jazz, because I'm not that kind of player. I don't know enough about it. So it's important for me to be aware of that, and then maybe pass them on to you, for instance, who has all that knowledge, all that vocabulary that I lack. So it's great to have that ability too now, because it's so diverse.
Yeah, it's very important for you as a teacher to be kind of honest within sort of what is you can teach and what you can't teach.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you can get in probably a pretty awkward situation, you know.
What's important to me, now that the market is getting so saturated, is that teaching is really a different skill than playing. And it's important for everyone to realize that if you want to start teaching. And like, for instance, when I was teaching in a music school back here in Belgium, there's some people who are just really, really good at explaining the basics. And I'm not one of those people, for instance. But it's important to find your strength and then use that to your advantage. So it's a skill, you got to find what works for you. And
absolutely, man. And your students will be so much happier as well. Yeah,
exactly.
I should have got you in on the podcast with Jack Handyside. We spoke all about this.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. We talk about this a lot. I think it's fun. But I think one super relevant thing that I really want to talk to you about is you're the first, I think, the first author that I've got on the podcast. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the book that came out yesterday or the day before. I'll be putting the links to all that kind of in the description so people can check it out. But we'll try and do this in like a methodical way, all right? I don't want to just dive straight into it. Let's like kind of get around the sides of it. And anyway, my question is this: how on earth did you get into writing books? And maybe explain a little bit to the audience about what these books are, because it's not like you're writing Harry Potter style fiction.
No,
books.
I mean, I tried to create some fictional characters in there, but I'm not very good at that.
All right, cool.
Well, first of all, thank you for mentioning it and for saying congratulations. That's really nice. So I write for Fundamental Changes, which is basically a company that writes instructional material for musicians. And I got into this because of Instagram, actually. It's not all bad, the social media, right? No, it's I got asked as an artist for the Neo Soul book to write a piece for it, like Mark Lethierry was asked to do. And then after a few months, the phone rang again, and it was Simon, the original author of the Neo Soul book, and he asked if I was interested in co-writing it. So I immediately took that opportunity because, it's a fantastic way of sharing knowledge with multiple people at the same time, It's like teaching on a big scale or something. So I was really happy with that opportunity, and ever since then, Joseph, the let's call him Mr. Boss, has given me the opportunity to write some books on my own as well, which is really, really nice. So yeah, the new one has just come out, and I'm super proud of this one. This is like my baby. This is the book I wanted to write when I first started.
Oh, great!
So
man.
I'm really excited for this to go out, and it's about tapping, so the technique tapping, and it's about a way of including this in any style of music, just as a technique, as a means to express yourself, and that's kind of the aim of the book: how to use this technique in your own way, in your own creative way. And I hope I did a pretty good job, but
yeah,
I'm really happy with the result.
I'm excited to check it out. I think one thing you said there that was, to me, incredibly important is that you give a skill to enable people to express themselves. And that's something that a lot of lessons online really just lack. They'll give you a transcription of like some licks, and it's just like, well, there you go. You can use these licks over this chord. And that's cool, but you're missing a lot of the puzzle. It's like, well, how do I use it as me, as Reese? How would I use tapping? And I'm hoping I have some time to dig into your book, and maybe I'll find an answer in there.
I hope so. If not, also let me know, because it's a way to improve, But it's something that Joseph and Tim, who's the editor, are really adamant about, that you write a method. Like, you really hand them the technique, break it down, and tell them why as well. The how to and the why. So in this case, it was important to all of us that the readers understand that the technique is a means to an end, and the end should always be something musical. So ask yourself, why are you learning this? So this book has a lot of little segments where it's like a piece where tapping is used in a certain genre or musical style. So there's a blues piece, for instance, and you could argue that tapping has really no place in blues, right? So that is true in a way, and I'm all for playing to a style and digging deep, understanding the tradition. But when it comes to expressing yourself, I think those rules can go out the window. I think Jack also mentioned this. Like, it's the rules really don't apply when it's about self-expression. So this is hopefully a way that people can learn the technique and also have the ability to get creative on their own.
Cool. So if you had your ideal student or person who was going to pick up this book, how would you describe them? Like some people would say this is for early intermediates, or like someone who knows the blues scale.
Okay, good question.
What's your market? Who is your market?
The market is, in a sense, everybody, and I know that kind of that sounds too broad, but I'll explain why. It starts with the absolute basics, so it starts with the fundamentals. You are supposed to have some kind of knowledge of the fretboard. There's not a lot of portions of the book where I dig really deep into, for instance, the caged system. It's mentioned, it's outlined, it's explained very shortly, but not in depth. So you're expected to have some kind of background information already. You're supposed to be able to, for instance, play the pentatonic scale. But if you can do that, this book is already a great starting point to start including tapping into your arsenal. So that being said, there's a lot of really, really advanced pieces in this book as well. So it covers a lot of area.
Cool. So you could kind of... There you go. Sorry, I was going to interrupt and say, so you could work from the beginning sort of forward, and there's a progression through the book as well.
Yeah, definitely. Let me get the outline, because why not read that? Hey.
Yeah, man. And while Kristof's doing that, you should all absolutely go and search for his books on Amazon. Can you just remind me what they're called? There's in fact, you tell us.
The Neo Soul Guitar Book. Guitar Looping, The Creative Guide, and
the new one, yeah. What's it called?
What is it called? Creative Tapping.
Yep.
For modern guitar. That's it.
Great. I dig it. So yeah, you'll find those all on Amazon. They're right there when you search the title.
Yeah.
You winning?
My computer is a mess, as you can tell.
It's fine.
You can cut this out.
No, it's fine. I keep it all in. It's natural.
Right. Yeah, that's good.
It's good. Hey, sorry for interrupting the podcast. I'll just be 1 minute. If you're receiving value from this podcast, consider supporting me by getting some of the Sitting In merch. From teespring.com/stores/sitting-in-podcast. That's teespring.com/stores/sitting-in-podcast. Yeah, so I guess while you're finding that, actually, why don't you tell us a bit in order about the books? Because, some of these books I've heard more of. I've heard more about the Neo Soul one compared to like the looping one, for example. I actually forgot you even had that, to be honest. Which is really cool. I should probably check that out as well. But tell me a little bit about what your segment in the Neo Soul book aims to provide people with. What's the goal in your part?
I wrote chapters 3, 4, and 6 in the Neo Soul book, which was single note lines. Oh, we split that up. Single note lines. My part was aimed at phrasing, so the use of vibrato, mini slides, bends, stuff like that. Things you can do to your line to make it more expressive. Chapter 4 was about double stops, how to integrate a sense of harmony into your lines. And chapter 6 was advanced licks, so aimed at intermediate and advanced guitar players. It's at the end of the book. So yeah, that was tricky. Some tapping, some harmonics, some advanced techniques.
Cool.
And then a performance piece.
Nice. So people could do this for like music exams, like in their school or something.
If they feel like it, definitely. There's also a backing track in that one. So
nice.
Yeah.
All right. So before we get onto the news one, what about the looping book? How did that come across, or how did that come about? What was the inspiration behind that?
It's kind of a funny story, I think, because I was pitching ideas for a next book after the Neo Soul one, which again is a co-write. I was pitching ideas to Joseph, and I had four ideas worked out into detail. Like, this is the idea, this would be the outline, and then on the bottom of that email, I said, or we could do something about looping, and he was like, I like that idea. Let's do that. Right. And I had nothing prepared, but he really he saw a niche, I think, something, an opportunity to write something about a subject that hasn't been written about before. And that's why we went with that. And I think that one is really aimed at beginners/intermediate players. It's got a lot of practice tips in it, a lot of, how to stay creative with the use of a looper, how to get out of a rut. So I tend to focus most of my books on channeling someone's own creativity. I think that's really important for any musician, and that's what I try to get across in my lessons as well. I give you a concept, now
make
go
something.
Nuts. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And then leading on to the latest one, have you found your script yet?
I have not, but I'll remember it. So it starts off in chapter 1 with the fundamentals, and there's a lot of video material where I show you how to mute strings, how to be accurate, how to make sure your volume of the tapped notes is adequately loud. Some exercises on finger independence, and then at the end of that chapter there's already a performance piece that you can learn that is not too hard to get your head around. Sorry, my English isn't perfect, so I stumble sometimes.
It's great, man. It's great.
And then in chapter 2 there's some classic tapping licks, so some cliche tapping lines, if you will, because it's important to mention that stuff as well. Why is it a technique? What has it been used in? Which genres? And then I instantly start adding other techniques to tapping, like hammer-ons, like bending. Again, some tips on phrasing, on how to be more expressive while using this technique. And that's all in chapter 2, and there's 2 solos that show you how to use multiple ideas that are mentioned in chapter 2 musically. Cool. So again, you work your way through some examples, and then you can learn the whole solo because you've basically seen every lick separately as well.
Right.
And then chapter 3 is really didactically strong, I would say. It's all about arpeggios. So there's a lot of theory in there. And it goes from just triads of major and minor chords to like add 9 chords, dominant 7 chords in multiple octaves, mostly in a linear fashion so that it's suited for tapping rather than sweep picking or something. And after that, we start including more fingers of the tapping hand.
All right, that's where it gets tricky.
Yeah. So that's chapter 4. And it starts off quite easy, like with the same licks as in chapter 2. But you start using multiple fingers instead of, for instance, sliding between notes. So tapping and sliding, now you use 2 separate fingers of the picking hand. And then chapter 5 is literally, those are all the pieces that are written in a certain style where tapping is used in that genre.
Cool.
So those are a bit longer, and it was tricky to record all of this because I don't use a fret wrap, or what do you call it?
Oh yeah, like
string mute. Yeah, it was tricky. But I mean, great challenge. It was
not copying out. That's what I like to see. Trying to make it harder for yourself. No, that's cool, man.
I learned a lot actually by recording this.
Oh no, totally. That's one thing I got better at because of Instagram. Actually, was like being able to get takes quick. You know, just record something and like hope for the first take. I mean, it's rarely the first take, but you know, being in that situation where it's like, oh, I'm going to record something, like doing it every day when I used to do that. Kind of not into it now. But yeah, something to be said about putting yourself in that position and just having to make something happen. And recording examples of pretty hard licks is definitely one of those. You're going to grow. Yeah. You're going to get better.
Yeah, but, exactly.
Yeah, when I first met you, or well, when I first sort of knew of you, I think you had like just started at Berkeley, and then we managed to meet up in, what year is this, man? It's 2020. In 2018, it was March 2018. Yeah.
Wow, good memory.
Yeah, it's because it came up on like Facebook or something recently. There was a photo when I was in New York. So what's changed between now and then? Because did you finish your? No, you didn't do your whole degree. You focused on something else.
Yeah.
How about we focus on that for a sec? How was that experience for you of being in the most popular college in the world, I guess, for music?
Well, maybe I should say why I went first.
Yeah,
because
cool.
I went to uni here in Belgium and I studied musicology. I got my master's degree and then did another master's in education.
Oh, geez, man. I never knew you had 2 master's degrees.
Yeah.
What age are you?
Sorry?
What age are you?
27.
Damn, that's good going. Well done.
Well, yeah, I've got the forever baby face, you know, so no one will ever know.
Just a quick question before you do move on. What was the degree in musicology like? What did that entail?
Well, in Belgium, at least, it's basically focused around classical music and then analysis and history. Those are the main things. I chose that because I was afraid of going after my dream, you know, which is playing guitar. I didn't think I was good enough when I was 18 to pursue that. And then I basically spent every minute practicing when I was at uni instead of going to class. Still finished my degrees. And then I was like, okay, so now I figured out what I want to do in life. And I've got these degrees. So it feels stupid to not use them.
Yeah.
You know? So I was looking for a part-time job so that I could become self-employed as well on the side, which is an option you have here in Belgium. But I couldn't find a part-time job, so I was basically just stuck at home. And I was like, okay, well, now I know what I need to do in life, which is play guitar to make myself happy. You know?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, I'm not doing anything. May as well apply for Berkeley. Yeah. Got in, went. And as soon as I left Belgium, all of the job offers started rolling in. It was ridiculous. So after, oh shit, sorry.
You all right?
After I kicked the mic.
Oh no, it's fine. I didn't hear it.
Okay. After one semester, well, basically 2/3 through the first semester, I was like, yeah, nah, I'm out. I mean, I'm gonna take this job, which was a good call, actually. So I moved back to Belgium, and then I started teaching at 2 schools, teaching privately, playing for a big choir here, and doing some session stuff and all kinds of little things. So I was basically doing what I wanted to do at that stage. And the only thing it took was getting into Berkeley. Not actually going, but getting into it.
Oh, wow.
Because it doesn't make any sense to me. Still doesn't. Because nothing changed, in a sense, you know? find that really, really odd.
Yeah.
But being there was super inspiring. To come back to your question,
Yeah.
being man, I'm rambling on.
It's all right. It's all right. Go for it. You're doing
Um,
great. We're cheering you on, man. Come on, Kristof. Yeah, but it was super inspiring. Like,
yeah, it really
I can
was.
imagine.
And well, I met my my lady friend there as well. So leaving was a bit difficult in a way as well, even though I was doing what I wanted to do over here in Belgium. So we did long distance for a while, traveled a bunch, and she is now finishing in August. She's finishing her degree, and then the plan is to move to Australia.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, if everything clears up, if we can travel again.
Yeah.
But right now we're in a bit of a pickle because half of our stuff is in the States, half is here in Belgium, and we're supposed to get everything to Australia.
Right.
So yeah.
Good luck. That's all
Thanks.
I can say. So what's the attraction to Australia?
Oh, I fell in love with it, man. I think I've been there 4 times now, and it's gorgeous. Gorgeous.
Gorgeous. We're about in Australia.
Anyway, how are you, Reese? Tell us about you. What are your plans?
Oh, I'm good, man. My plans are to just keep creating music and trying to develop that, I guess. That's my main kind of goal as a musician.
Yeah, can't wait for your album, man.
Sorry?
Can't wait for your album.
Oh yeah, great. Someone's looking forward to it.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm excited to get this stuff out. It's been a long work in progress, but it's not like it's been a lot of work either. It's more just like getting a band in the room at the same time is bloody difficult.
Especially now, yeah.
Yeah, well, definitely right now. So yeah, that's kind of what's like that's my main project for this year. And so that should get all my attention once this stuff is finished. But yeah, other than that, I'm just teaching right now. Obviously, that's all I can do for work. There's no gigs. I can't do any performances. Workshops are not happening, obviously. Although I did continue doing workshops for the first couple of weeks of this because I was actually considered essential for the health services because of the stuff I'd done in the hospital, which was cool.
That's great.
So I was allowed to do that.
A round of applause for Reese because he's a great man.
Oh,
no, that's really admirable, man. Really, it's great to give back.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can take in for yourself until you have to do something for someone else.
Yeah, definitely.
So you're like a balloon. You need to let gas out every now and then.
Believe me, I do.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, that was such a bad analogy. I don't know if you have this, but when I teach, I teach a lot with analogies, and I try and get inside the students sort of like, it's important for me to know what their hobby is other than music. Because if they like cooking or sports or whatever it is, I'm always trying to compare. It's like, well, this is like this. And that's the kind of bad analogy I would give during a lesson. It's like, it's just like a balloon, we got to let gas out sometimes. It's like, oh, cool, man. I thought we were teaching you like scales or something. Yeah, but you got to see.
I completely agree with taking on board the personality behind the student as well. If you connect on multiple facets of life, or however you say that, they're going to enjoy it so much more, and so will you. So yeah, I mean, I had a student and we only ever talked about soccer or football, I should say. So yeah, that was great. I mean, cool. Other than music, of course.
Yeah.
I mean,
of course. I was a couple of things that I notice in your sound and particularly your instruments is that they're all quite unique. It's like you have like generic shaped guitars, like Strat, Tele, but they all sound and look just a wee bit different. Like there's something going on. And I spoke to you a couple of weeks ago, and I do now know about how into tone and like searching for the right materials in a guitar. That's something you seem quite passionate about, and that's really cool to hear. Because for me, I'm like, Oh, can I plug it in and does it make noise? Does it feel good? Yep, cool, we got a guitar here. But you're way more methodical, and you were telling me all about different wood types, and it's pretty cool. Something I've never considered. I mean, I understand like the difference between necks, and like a body might have a different type of wood. It might sound a bit different, but you seem to know your stuff with that. So I'm curious. I know we spoke about this briefly, but there's a couple of main guitars you have. You've got the LSL, and then you've got like a Strat, I think, as well, right?
Yeah.
And then there's your Telly that's got like the B bender.
Yes, exactly. And I've built another guitar with a B bender on it now. So yeah, that's kind of the new sound I'm going for.
Yeah. So how does that how did you come to building your own guitars? Like, what happened?
Well, in short, and I'm sure I'll give you the long as well in a second, I went down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So
what did it start with? Did it start with like pickups or like strings, and then you're like, well, what if I change the pickups? Like, what was the progression?
I guess it starts with strings,
right?
And once you start trying too many things and noticing things that really shouldn't make a difference to anybody except for you, but they start to make that difference, it's impossible to let go of these things that you noticed. So it's really hard to talk about this because a recorded guitar sounds like a recorded guitar, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But it's more about the feel than anything else. And this is maybe something you can relate to as well, because if you pick up another instrument with, for instance, higher action or solid body versus hollow body, you will approach that instrument differently. You will play differently. And that's kind of the idea I go for with my guitars as well. So they all serve a purpose, and without going into too much detail, like, this is why I like pine, and
I mean, I'm curious because I don't know any of that stuff.
Oh, it's very simple. It's a feel thing,
Right.
It resonates differently, and even though when you record it and the signal that goes into the pickup might be the same as on another, let's say it's a telly, might be the same as on another telly, the way the guitar resonates and reacts is different. For instance, my pine guitar is super light and it resonates like crazy. It's like, it's like plugging in a vibrator. It's unbelievable.
Hopefully that's not the kind of analogy you'd give to a student, though, right?
Oh no. It started with changing strings, changing pickups for my first real guitar. And then I was like, okay, well, that's not it. And it's still not exactly the way I want it. Let's just put a different neck on it. And that turned out to be very easy. And then I was like, oh, maybe I should just buy some parts, start building, buy another guitar, switch everything around. And now it's like an addiction. So,
nice.
Yeah. But
so is this like a... Sorry?
It makes for a cheap new guitar day because I can just switch two necks around and I have two new guitars.
Right. So is this like a weekly thing? You're like just changing necks, or is it something that you kind of get settled with and then you have it for a while and then you get bored?
Certain necks work better with certain bodies. It's usually to do with not necessarily the wood type, but the way the pocket is shaped. Like sometimes it just fits better, and then you got a more resonant guitar. So it doesn't really happen on a weekly basis, but if I mess up, then I'm gonna fix it soon as well.
That's cool. I'm rubbish when it comes to tech, like guitar tech. Like tech, I'm pretty good with, but like guitar tech is I can change my strings, and that's about it. It's like
all you need, man. It's all you need.
I don't know,
as
like
you say, it's to make music, right? But I go so deep into this because it pulls more out of me as well. Then when it's really my guitar, then I feel like there's more of a connection. And even if that's totally made up, it makes a difference.
Yeah, no,
for
totally.
Me. So
yeah. I wish I could like even just switch out pickups. Like I've never done that, and I usually just there's a guy I get my guitars worked on. So there's a guy who works on my guitars, and he's just great, and it's not cheap, but he does it very well. But I think it'd be handy if I knew how to do like some things like that, like even just like when and how to adjust your truss rod. You know, I'm just like, yeah, it must be fine. You know, I'll just keep playing.
yeah, unless your neck is bent.
Yeah, I mean, not my guitar neck. Yeah. I went to see a chiropractor when I was just got to college. I was like 17, I think, and I came out thinking that I was in so much trouble because everybody is out of alignment. Your spine, right? I'm kind of relating this to the bent neck thing.
Yeah.
And I went in and I got like scans of my body, and she like touched my back and like moved my arms about and stuff. And then she showed me the X-ray or the scan, and she's like, "All right, you've got like 3 misaligned vertebrae." And you know, they don't tell you. It's like, yeah, most people do. It's like it's not that serious. It's like I came out being like, oh my, they want to see me 3 times a week. It's £30 a session. I'm a college student. How am I going to afford this? And I remember calling my dad and be like, just trying to explain the situation to him. I was like, right, I went to see a chiropractor and I'm broken, man. Like, why didn't you tell me this? But it's funny.
That's good. Yeah. Actually, one of the first things we talked about ever was that was posture while you practice.
Oh, did we?
And yeah. I think.
Oh wait, was this
a copy of? Sorry.
This wasn't when we were in Boston, was it?
No.
Right, cool.
It was over social media.
Right.
I think you posted a book of like posture for musicians or something.
Right.
Anatomy,
the anatomy of guitar.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's such a subject that's also important to teach, and it's so easily forgotten about. And I mean, if you have had something like that, like you had to see a chiropractor, you don't tend to forget about it anymore. You also give this to your students, you know?
Yeah, totally, man. I'm always trying to get my students just to sit right. And there's just so many bad habits that we just have. I wish I was taught like good sitting posture when I was a kid.
Same, man. I'm still the worst. I pick it out in other people instantly, but myself, it's really hard to find. Even now,
it's just I think it's a mindfulness thing. I don't think it's anything to do with like physically having to change stuff. Are you familiar with the Alexander technique?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Cool. Because if people who are listening, if you don't know what the Alexander technique is about, it's kind of a non-manipulative way of resetting your posture. It's based on the principle that we're all born with perfect posture, unless you've got some sort of condition like scoliosis or something like that. And their whole philosophy is about trying to use your mind and like some movement to encourage that state that we were all born with. That's my belief. That's my understanding of it. Is it something that you've practiced or had any lessons in?
Something similar. It's called Feldenkrais.
Never heard of it.
And it's roughly the same, actually. And it's kind of, again, mindful movements to then later be able to not think about making the correct movements or sitting correctly. You know, like hardwiring you to do the right thing without having to think about it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's roughly the same Feldenkrais Alexander technique. It's
So if it's something that you've studied, then do you have any advice to people who maybe they feel like they have bad posture when they play guitar? Obviously, it's a super personal thing. You know, some people just don't put their feet flat on the ground, which is silly. But like,
you've basically said one of the most important things there.
Right.
Put your feet both on the ground. You know how many people sit with one foot on the other, you know?
Yeah, it's so bad, man. Yeah. It's so bad. Yeah. Think about the amount of time you spend doing that if you play guitar, even 2 hours a day over the course of your life. Like your ankle's joint is gonna get messed up, and then furthermore it all leads up, and then your hips tight, side of your back's tight, and your whole, like, I'm in a position right now because I played for hours when I was a kid. I mean, I still do, but like when I just started playing, it was the whole day was just guitar, and I didn't have a clue what posture even, like, I never thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I did, because now I have just like my right shoulder is, there's just a lot of imbalances. And it's all because of playing guitar in a way, which is funny. So when I get a young student, I'm always just saying, "Oh, watch your posture, watch your posture," and it's probably annoying, but you know what? If they get to my age and they're still playing, they'll be grateful.
Yeah, you're totally right. I actually had a teacher who pointed it out constantly as well, which I'm really grateful for. But every time I practiced, it went out the window. You know, I was that kid that needed the other person to be there and say,
Right.
"What's your posture?" You know.
Yeah. I mean, it's when you're a kid, it's not something you think about, though, is it?
Exactly. Yeah. Because you don't have any ailments or just it doesn't hurt. So why change something that's not a problem?
Yeah, and then you have to spend your whole adult life reversing these problems that we create for ourselves.
And we're sitting here complaining like old men.
Yeah, it's so important though. And if you're over the age of, in fact, yeah, if you're like over the age of 18, for example, and have just started playing guitar or been playing for years, I do personally recommend that you consider two or three things. The first thing is, before you play, this isn't a video, but do some arm stretches to stretch out your forearms, and then practice sort of stretching and open up your chest. Because when you use your fingers, it all comes from it comes from your spine. All your nerves are connected to your spine. So if you can open up the kind of parts that are mostly being used, is kind of helpful. So I'd say like your neck, your chest, and your arms, and your fingers if you got time for it. If I'm gonna spend a whole day playing, or if I have a gig, and I don't know, we all get a little bit tighter when we play gigs, I think, or at least I do. So I always just need to make sure I like give a good stretch. And the other thing I would recommend, if you do suffer from any tightness at all, that will come back if you don't fix your posture, is at least go and get like a deep tissue massage, because I've found those to be incredibly helpful for just breaking down the fiber and tissue. And it hurts.
And getting knots out of the muscles, and it can be really helpful.
Yeah, but one thing that I learned recently are you familiar with Twina?
Don't think so, no.
It's like a Chinese.
Is it a needle point?
They do use that, but it's not about just that. It's like a combination of a couple of different Chinese things with Western approaches as well. But I was speaking to the guy after getting some treatment, and he had suggested, well, if you want to have better posture while you're playing guitar, he had one suggestion. It was, other than the obvious things like keep your feet on the ground, is breathe into, I'll keep it simple, but breathe up into your chest. And so you take and for me, that just relaxes my shoulders and puts my scapula, my shoulder blades, into the right position. So whenever I feel like I have crap posture, I just breathe up into my chest, like my solar plexus. And when I breathe out, sometimes it takes like 3 breaths, but everything usually sits into the right place after a minute. So whenever I want to reset myself, that's what I do, and it is very helpful. It helps get rid of tension in a couple minutes.
Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Oh no, I hope it benefits someone, because it's these small insights that, I don't know, you just don't get taught. You have to find them, and they just kind of pop up. So yeah, if you're listening and have any guitar tension or guitar aches and pains, try those things. They'll help. And if you have any specific questions, reach out as well, because I've suffered a lot. Not too much. Yeah.
I mean, we're musicians, haven't we all?
Yeah, that's part of the thing, really.
Tormented souls.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what are you working on just now, like in music? I know you said you're working on a collaboration. But is there any specific things you're shedding or composing, or what's happening in your world?
I have just yesterday written down some ideas for a next instructional either book or video course or whatever.
Cool.
And that's the next goal. Other than that, we're recording that EP, which will be out at some point. there's no pressure, so we'll see about that. And I've made myself a practice schedule again, and it's been years since I've been practicing like this, and I'm loving it.
Oh, great. So how does that look? What's the practice schedule looking like?
Well, it's basically a flow chart, so that I don't know if flow chart is the right word to describe it, but it's like a calendar, right? With, for instance, the first thing that I've written down is vibrato, right? And every day I practice my vibrato for 15 minutes. I can tick it off, right?
Right.
The idea is to not break the flow. So if you do it every day, it's an idea I stole from Bob Reynolds, actually, the saxophone player, who is actually one of my biggest influences musically and on saxophone as well. Because
wow. I forgot that you played saxophone as well. Damn.
Yeah, not good though. So let's not go there. Not well. So yeah, and I try to practice these things every day. Not necessarily start with vibrato, because if you get too stuck into one routine, I get bored quite quickly. So for vibrato, for instance, there's many ways to practice vibrato. So I can still switch it up, but vibrato is one of the things I work on.
Cool.
And the idea is to not break the flow for 30 days. Then take a little break, which is actually essential, that little break, and go over what worked, what you liked, what you didn't like. Did you get through the 30 days? If so, why? If not, why? Just analyze why you...
So is it just one technique that you shared for a whole month?
No, it's a couple. I just took this as an example.
Right.
But this might be interesting. I actually wrote down things that I think I'm already okay at.
Right.
So, like if I would describe my style, I would say it's pretty legato based, and harmonics, tapping, and stuff like that. Like things I like the sound of, things I like to do myself. So what I'm trying to do now is develop those even more. So I'm limiting myself to the things I like.
Yeah.
And because, as Tim Pierce said, limitation creates style, right? And by becoming better at the things that I already do naturally, is how I should say it. I'm going to create more of a distinguished sound, I think.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the goal.
Totally.
Okay? So, of course, there's other things on there as well, things I'm not good at, like alternate picking. But that's basically warm-up exercises. There's also playing over backing tracks, develop your ear, transcribe. And every segment is like 15 minutes. The whole thing adds up to like 2 hours a day, which is not that much, I mean,
if you're focused for 2 hours, then
exactly.
That's great.
It's focused practice is different than just chatting, right? So, yeah, work on the things that you like the sound of, I'm never going to be a good alternate picking guy. I also don't want to be, because I don't like the sound,
Right. So why are you practicing it?
It's a good warm-up for both hands.
Right, cool.
So it's to get the blood flowing. That's usually the first one. The rest switches around.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. I'm in a similar position where every now and then I just practice. Like, I never have a routine. I also never stick to the same thing for more than a week or something. Yeah. It's like I'm so bad at practicing. But one thing that I'm trying to get better at, my attention is on technique right now, because there just comes a time when you listen to yourself and you're like, something's missing. And for me, a lot of that time is not anything musical. It's just like my technique isn't in the right place. And so as of, I think it was the beginning of this week or something, I just like wrote out some sort of schedule for like practicing picking technique. Nothing exciting at all. It's like not exciting. I put the metronome on and I play, and I just keep practicing the same fingerings, and it's just about getting the two hands in sync more, really. It's not that exciting, but it's something I feel like I need to go through to get everything going again. Like, I listened to recording my sound. I don't know what it was. It's like I sounded like out of shape. Like Imagine like a pro runner who got out of shape and started running. They would know, like you'd see in the performance how it wasn't like quite there, even though they're still a pro. And
or they would at least experience it themselves, that feeling.
Yeah. And anyway, I listened back, and after feeling like I couldn't get some ideas out, I listened, and I sounded like I just had fat fingers or something. Like, I don't know what it was, man. And so I feel like I need a little bit of like guitar cardio, like get everything moving again. And so that's what I'm focusing on.
I mean, that's actually great to realize as well, because you've analyzed your playing and you've determined for yourself that the thing you need to work on is technique. But that is literally like lifting weights. You'll get better at it if you do it. It's not like training musicality, it's so much more vague. Of course you can also practice that, but technique is pretty much like, okay, do this.
You just show up and do the work. And that's kind of what I like about that kind of practice, is that I don't have to think too hard about what needs achieved. It's more about going through the motions.
But that must be such a nice thing to realize, like, it's not something musical that's missing, it's just technique. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to practicing musicality, which is something I spent more time practicing than anything, like I didn't even think about technique through my first 8 years or something. Like, seriously, man, I was just singing about music, and that was the most important thing, which is cool. I'm glad I've done that. But obviously left some things behind because of it. But when it comes to practicing like musicality, there's so many other ways of getting into that. And I feel like for me, practicing musicality now is more about kind of like meditation than anything. Because I think that the more I am present in the music that is happening, the more I'm really inside every note that I play with like a sense of presence, then it's more musical straight away. So it's like, for me, if I'm trying to practice like, I don't know, the more kind of creative side of things, without going into specifics about like practicing phrasing or different rhythmic techniques or whatever it may be, the main thing for me is just like, are you present with what's happening in the music? And if
That's
you're not, like,
advice.
because if you're not present and you're not really playing the music, the music's kind of happening because your hands are doing it, then I think there's a big disconnect between your sound and what's actually coming out.
Yeah.
In a way, I mean, muscle memory will get you by totally.
Exactly, and licks have their place, But yeah, you're totally right, and it's a really nice way of putting it too, It'll make you more sincere and authentic, practicing the way you just described, or playing the way you just described, because it doesn't have to be during practice.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Ideally, it relates to all aspects of life, really. Yeah. I was speaking to Jack again, actually, about this last night. What we've been doing in our spare time is just like playing Call of Duty online together. Just like sweating out playing that, which has been fun.
It's great to just clear the head,
Yeah, totally. But we were chatting about this thing of it's run away from me. What was I just talking about, Chris?
The mindfulness, when you like being present in the notes in what you're playing.
Yeah, we were speaking about that last night. I can't remember what I was going to say, but tune in next week for more. But yeah, it's more for me, and I think maybe what we were talking about was about you being honest and being an honest musician. I think if you can strive to sound sort of like yourself in some way, it's always going to be easier to practice, because you're not aiming for the sound of someone else, which is impossible. I mean, you can replicate and you can do really good replications, but there came a time in my development I was like, I'm never going to sound like this person who I love. I may as well sound like myself because it's easier as a cop-out.
Yeah.
But in that became sort of like me being honest with myself, and I think hopefully I sound a little bit like Rhys Gilchrist right now. That's the goal.
You do, man. Yeah, I'd pick you out of 1,000 videos, so that's successful,
Well, that's good to hear.
So yeah, but that's actually why I've made this practice schedule, even though it sounds quite strict. It's all things that I enjoy doing. It's all things that all words or techniques that I would use to describe my own sound.
Yeah.
And I'm just working on developing that more, you know? And using limitations in that is also something that can benefit you massively, you know? And that's kind of what I did. It's not like practice technique, it's practice hybrid picking or practice tapping.
Yeah. Nice. One thing I want to ask you about before we go our separate ways is so you recently started a Patreon page, right?
I did, yes.
Yeah, cool. So what was the thinking behind that?
It's been on my mind for ages to start something like that. I just bit the bullet. And my timing may not have been fantastic because it was right after everything went south with the situation here. So the first thing we noticed with book sales as well is that people, although they have more time, they also, there's a lot of uncertainty right now, so they're quite hesitant to spend money. So it may not have been the best move to do it when, or to have started this page when I did.
Yeah.
But the idea was to put some more lessons online, get better at talking to a camera, because there's a lot of how do you say it, hidden content for the members.
Yeah.
And it's also a way of for me to reach students via a different platform.
Alright, I hope you enjoyed episode 8 of Sitting In. There's links to Kristof's book and Patreon and Instagram in the show notes. As always, if you want to support what I'm doing, you can click in the show notes and see a link to the merch. And also, feel free to share it on Instagram or leave a rating on iTunes.